Okay, so today I just needed to check a tube, a Compactron, and I'm using my Seco 107C. Now, Seco made a variety of tube checkers. They made a 107, and then they made an A, a B, and a C. And in the A model, they had this really neat green eye tube here. And then on the B model, they eliminated that, but now on the C model, they actually added this back in. Once you plug the tube in, and this is the Compactron here, and you get it all set up, you just look at the eye tube, and as long as it's closed, everything's okay. If it's a bad tube, it's going to open up. Now, one of the things about this particular unit is you notice that you don't see any old tube sockets, like an 83 tube that would be like a 4-pin. You don't see that on here. And you've got two different locations. This top panel up here, these are your pin straighteners here. The top panel is emissions. So it's going to do emissions, and then you're going to flip this switch over to the emission position, okay? However, if a tube goes in one of these sockets, you can do mutual conductance on the unit as well. It's also got a couple new Vistor as well. And it's really convenient when you plug a tube in here because you can just push 1, 2, 3, don't have to make any changes and flip switches or do anything. So this particular tube is a 20, let's see if we can get this here. This is a, upside down. This is a 23Z9 Compactron. So it's 3 sections that you want to test. This is set up for the final test. So if I just flip this up now, of course, the tube is good. And I've gone through and doing this. And believe it or not, the Seco tube book that came with it has that particular tube listed in the guide here. Let's see, where is it? 23, there it is, 23Z9. You notice it's 3 sections. And it's a little bit complex when it comes to actually adjusting the switches. Not really once you get to do it. For example, the first setup for the 23Z9 says set the filament voltage to 25. Okay, so, we just set it for 25. Okay, and then you got these switches down here. And they've got over here things like Q and X and F and F1. Okay, so what you got to remember to do with this is that this is which switch goes in position F, and the next number is which switch goes into F1, and then which switch goes into Q position, and which one goes into the X position. So if we go to the very beginning here, just to give it a try, you got 24 volts, so you got F is in 1, and F1 is in 12. So what you're going to do here is under number 1, you're going to bring the switch down to the F position, okay? Then it says switch number 12, which is over here, you want that to be in the F1 position. So there you go, that's correct. And then the next thing it says is Q is 3 and X is 6. So you go to number 3 here. Push those up. Okay, so you're going to go to, let's see, Q is number 3. So you're going to go to switch number 3, and you're going to move that down to the Q position. So that's the first one. And then it says, okay, X is 6. So you go over to number 6, okay, and you're going to bring that down to the X position, which is the second position. Okay, so now everything is set up correctly. We're going to check this thing is still closed, so that means there's no problem with shorts or anything. And then we move it up. Oh, no, I made one mistake here. Let's see, the load needs to be on 50. Okay, I didn't got to do that. So we'll set this at 50, and now we'll check the emissions, and bingo, tube's good. So we are good for that tube. And then you just basically are going to go through and move these switches around. But it can be a little confusing when you look at the book because of the way they have it. You know, when you see an F and then you see a dash F with a 1 underneath, you're going, well, what does that mean? But F1 means that, means this right here. That's F1 and that's F. See, so the second column. So that's pretty much how you set it up for a Compactron. And the book is very, very complete. It's got a lot of different tubes in it, but you got to have this, you got to have the book, the right book with it. So if you ever get one of these, make sure that you get that. And like I said, this is a more of a modern tube checker because of the fact that it's ready to do Compactrons. Things like the Heathkit TT1, that has an option that goes in the lid for you to able to connect Compactrons. And then if you get like a Hickok 539 A, B, or C, you want to use the HC5 adapter, which allows you to check Compactron tubes. And I realize that Compactrons are more for things like television and stuff like that, but there's a lot of other test equipment that has used Compactron tubes, because this is like a 3-section tube right here, and that checks out good. And you even got a tube checker where you can plug in the Compactron and straighten out the pins if you need be. And I mean, how cool is the Magic Eye? I mean, if you push this up, you can see it moves a little bit. But, oh, another thing I wanted to mention, you notice you got an on-off, but look, there's no line adjustment on this. So what's that all about? Believe it or not, one of the things they did for the Model 107C is they put in a constant voltage transformer. Now, I don't know of any other tube checker where they put in a constant voltage transformer, but I've done some measurements with this, and it's amazing that when you put in, you know, a tube like a 5Y3, let's say a rectifier, 5U4 rectifier, you put it in here, you notice that if you're using most tube checkers, the minute you plug that tube in, the voltage drops, and then you got to go and crank up the line. Nope, it maintains the proper voltage when you plug in those kind of tubes because of the constant voltage transformer. Very, very, very unique, very clever tube checker. I waited a long time. I had a 107, which I got rid of, but I waited almost 2 years to get what I considered to be a really clean C version because of what it can do. And like I say, it can do both mutual conductance over here. When you plug it in over here, you're going to get the emissions test. Thank you and have a great day.